What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. In this video, I want to talk all about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collab that's just about to end here November 13th. All of the big events are done. All of the characters got their own events. And it feels like it's been a long time, about 3 months for this entire collab. And I think it's a good time to take a look back and see what Plarium did well, what they did not do well, and what we can learn from this moving forward, maybe for future collabs. All right, so first things first, I want to talk about one of the biggest pros from this collab, and that's going to be the free login champion Michelangelo from the Bannerlord. So Michelangelo was the free login champion from this collab. All you had to do was log into the game for 7 days and you get the champion. But of course, you want to keep going and build up his 5-star soul. Now, this champion for a brand new player, obviously these collabs are to kind of tap into nostalgia, kind of try to get back players that have given up the game or actually pick up completely brand new players. But basically a champion like this for a new player is absolutely insane, especially with a 5-star soul. He brings basically everything you need, right? He has a double hit on the A1, which makes him applicable in different areas, of course. He also brings increased attack for himself, so he's self-buffing. His A2 brings decreased defense, also brings crowd control to stun, and then he has a debuff spread as well, so you get lots more value in terms of AoE debuffs, not just decreased defense. Now, you can't spread the AoE stun, but still, you can spread the AoE decreased defense along with other debuffs as well. And then he brings an A3 here with a decreased attack and leech. It also brings taunt as well. Now, these are really, really big debuffs, especially for early game clan boss, where you really need decreased attack, and leech really, really helps you sustain, reduces your reliance on like lifesteal gear, for example. And the taunt on this ability really synergizes well with his passive because he gets a shield worth 300% of his attack every time he receives a hit, which is awesome. He also has an evade ability as well, which makes him incredibly difficult to kill. Now, Michelangelo is a really, really good champion. He requires accuracy in his kit, which is perfect because you can put the 5-star soul on him with a brimstone, so he can help you deal some good damage to a lot of the bosses, especially early on. He's definitely a shining pro in this collab for sure. He's one of the best free login champions that we've gotten in a long time that I can remember, and he's made even better with the 5-star soul. Since we have Michelangelo on screen, I want to talk about the aesthetics here. Now, obviously, if I told you that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was coming into Raid, we'd all be kind of skeptical at how they would incorporate kind of a cartoonish collab and put it into Raid. Well, I think Raid did a pretty good job at keeping some of their cartoonish, charm, but adding obviously the aesthetics of Raid and then Raidifying them into the game. They obviously keep a little bit of their personality as well, which is really, really cool. I think they put a lot of thought into these character designs, so gotta give them some credit there. And as always, the characters always look amazing from Plarium, so kudos for that. Another pro here was the event dungeon. Now, the event dungeon is over as of time of recording, but since the event dungeon opened, it actually gave new players a chance to get the 10% speed bonus from the 2-piece bonus here, which is really, really nice, especially since you can squeeze them onto accessories. It really helps new players out. So I thought this was a really big pro. Also, the event dungeon was a lot easier than the previous one. So Plarium obviously taking some of our feedback and adjusting the difficulty of the event dungeon so that everyone can actually participate, get some gear, and obviously improve some of their champions. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the chronophage set bonus or anything like that. I think it's a little bit, too specific use-wise. But, for everybody getting a 2-piece bonus on, your champions, it's just an easy 10% speed. So I think this is a huge, obviously, pro. So good on Plarium to get that going. Now, considering there were 6 collab champions, there were events for basically everybody for you to obtain, except for the Shredder, which was a winner-take-all. Everybody else was attainable up to a certain point, but the Shredder event was not. So I do consider that a pro, just given the overall accessibility of some of the champions. Another huge pro from them is actually giving us Donatello as the first fusion in the collab. Donatello, I think, is amazing. He fits as a general support for many characters, many accounts. He can fit in a lot of different teams. He's easy to build, high HP, high speed. That's all you need. Don't need accuracy on him. And as a fusion, I thought he was just much more accessible, obviously, than Raphael or Leonardo. So big pro for that, for providing Donatello there. Another huge pro is actually providing us a great champion in Leonardo, giving us Leonardo as a guaranteed champion event. I was really surprised because I didn't expect Leonardo to be given to us because Leonardo's kit was so strong. It definitely puts him as one of the strongest guaranteed champions of all time, if not the strongest. I would say probably behind Narcissus. Narcissus was meta changing when he was offered as a guaranteed Void Legendary for 110 Void Shards, I believe. But Leonardo definitely not far behind. Let me know in the comments below if you guys think Narcissus is better than Leo or vice versa. So overall, I thought the events for the champions were quite good in that 5 out of 6 of them were more accessible. Another general positive about this collab was that it felt like there was a lot of hype around this collab. I think a lot of people really tapped into nostalgia and a lot of people were really interested in this collab. I saw a lot of comments on Reddit, on YouTube saying that they just joined up to check out the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collab. And you know what? Even 3 months in, they were still grinding it out, trying to get the turtles. I think the lasting player determination to see out the collab was actually quite high relative to other collabs that I've experienced. One more pro before we move on. I want to quickly talk about the turtles in general. Now we have Leonardo as the leader, but he is the first champion to have this kind of special unity bonus where he is basically a faction unity champion, but the faction is just the turtles, which is really, really cool. The turtles really synergize well with each other. They cover each other's weaknesses for the most part, and there's no block debuffs, unfortunately, and no reviver. But Donnie does have a cheat death passive. Mikey has the decreased defense. We got Raph for the single target attacks, and then we have Leonardo here for plus defense and AoE attacks. And all of them come in with the ally attack whenever one of them attacks. So they really synergize together. And I feel like this collab in particular does a great job of that. Obviously, they're a team, the turtle team, of course. So it's easier to kind of, make their kits to synergize together as opposed to monster hunters or whatever like that. But here, I thought they worked out really well together. Even April has an ability that kind of counters the turtles, which, kind of makes them all flow together. But I thought Plarium did a particularly good job here with the turtles design and overall synergy with each other. So good on them for that. I think that's a huge pro, especially if you have more than one turtle. They definitely work well together. All right, let's head on to the cons. So here are some serious cons about this collab. First of all, it was plagued with leaks, plagued with miscommunication, plagued with delays. And honestly, I think a lot of it was just Plarium being handcuffed by NDAs and embargoes. Like they basically couldn't disclose anything to anybody. So unfortunately, we had to speculate on what is the most likely outcome on a lot of things. So first, there was a leak on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collab to start. First of all, we didn't know what collab it was going to be, and then a leak came out a couple days before the collab was supposed to open. So that was the first leak. The second big leak was basically on the first day of the collab, and basically all the big events for the turtles were, basically leaked out with what kind of events they were and what dates they were going to come. Now, this sparked all sorts of speculation and controversy, and like I said, Plarium could not offer us anything in terms of anything concrete. In the end, it was mostly just a date issue, so they did give us the events that were leaked, but at different dates that the leak document had. Now, having these leaks obviously form some kind of hype, I thought in general is probably a good thing because these leaks actually gave us something tangible to prepare for, even though they were leaks. It's one thing to say, hey, you guys should save resources because of the possibility of this event, but it's another thing to say, hey, you should save resources because this was leaked out. And I guess people probably took that to heart and then started saving their resources, because I've never seen so many people write in my comments saying that they've never had this many shards before and they got this event because they were saving, because, we prepped them months in advance to save because of this leaked document. So I think overall it's a pro and a con, because it's obviously very annoying. It tests people's patience to constantly be looking out for these events and not getting any kind of concrete information. But I think overall it did prepare us, at least mentally, that these events were coming. Now, another big con that actually happened during the collab was that this collab actually had 3 fusions involved. It had Donatello, it had Granite Doorkeep, which is actually a very solid champion, but he was just not getting a lot of community love because people were all waiting for the guaranteed events. So you got Granite Doorkeep, and then you had Maria, the Halloween fusion as well. So we had 3 fusions during this collab, as well as multiple Titan events. We had 2 Titan events, and then we had guaranteed events for Raphael, and we had guaranteed event for Leonardo as well, not to mention the relics, right? The event relics. So there's just a million things to do. And you know what? It's really, a bit of a pressure thing, right? So people don't like to have constant FOMO, constant pressure, and I get it. But you can definitely view that as a negative, but at the same time, it does give you a little bit of choice. Personally speaking, I had to skip Donatello's 5-star soul, for example, because I just wanted to save up resources. I started the collab with very low resources, and Donatello's soul I felt was basically expendable, and I basically took the 2 weeks for his event just took it easy, saved up my resources, and prepared for the guaranteed events to come later on. Another big con is obviously all these events are very expensive. You have to finish an entire Titan event just to get a 5-star soul for a champion, right? Or you have to win a champion chase to get the 5-star soul for Maria. They're just really, really expensive, especially if you're a low spender or free to play. You can't target all of these events. You have to be more specific in what you choose. But overall, the grind's just an intense. It's an intense grind, and not everyone can do it. Not everyone can dedicate the time, let alone the resources to completing some of these events. The other, I guess, positive, negative thing for this collab is that they're exclusive. If you missed out on them, you're never going to get them again, most likely, unless there's some special clause. This only happened once with Ninja, where Ninja came back, I believe 3 years after he first came out, or 2 years after he came out. He came out exactly on the day that he was released. So there must have been some clause in his contract that allowed Plarium to re-release Ninja. But with these kind of collabs with the Monster Hunters and the Turtles, I'm not sure if they'll come back. Maybe we'll see them again in a year or two, but I wouldn't hold out my breath for them. So the exclusiveness of them, obviously is a good and bad thing, but it's a big FOMO effect, right? Just circling back on that exclusiveness kind of point is that if the Turtles ever become somewhat like overpowered in any way, having them be super exclusive means that nobody else can access that level of power, especially since they do have a kind of a faction unity bonus here with Leonardo. So if you were newer to the game later on in the game and you totally missed the Ninja Turtle collab, you don't have access to those turtles anymore. So that's definitely a bad thing, and that's might be something that Plarium needs to consider in terms of overall balancing. But their kits look overall straightforward, so I don't believe they have any issues. But right now, I think they're teetering on being maybe too strong, maybe. But I think right now they're in a decent spot overall, especially if they continue releasing stronger and stronger champions. The Turtles should not be overpowered moving forward. That's potentially a big negative as well. Another big negative from this collab is that it seemingly ran on forever. There was a lot of events trying to basically squeeze us resources, basically to get us to gamble for the champions instead of participating in the guaranteed events. Obviously, this is a business. They need to make money and all that stuff. So they have their tactics to try to get us to release our resources so that we don't get the champion as cheap as possible. But honestly, the champions like Raphael that came from the Deck of Fate, that came from the Soul Stones, was not cheap or easy to get. Just because the secondary component was training, and then to get Leonardo, it was, basically, 25 Sacred Shards worth of points, and then if you wanted his soul, it would be another 20 or so Sacred Shards. It was quite expensive. It was not record-breaking expensive, but it was quite expensive for a champion here. Which begs the question, like, is it really worth it? We were basically saving up resources for 2 or 3 months just to get this one champion and his soul, potentially. I would say this champion would have transformed a lot of accounts, especially if you got him early. And even if you had to spend a little bit of money to get this champion, I think he's probably worthwhile. So overall, I feel like the prize was probably worth it, but it's definitely very, very expensive. And the same goes for Raphael. Raphael, very cool turtle here, but him coming from the guarantee with just soul stones and training made him quite expensive. And yeah, for Raphael, I had to skip his 5-star soul too. I would have loved to get the 5-star soul for him to boost up his power level, but I had to skip it just to conserve resources. So overall, I wanted to kind of just talk a little bit about the entire collab situation here. I thought the entire collab was probably the best collab that they ever had. In terms of the overall style, the characters, they looked amazing. I liked how they had great kits. All of them had great kits in their own way. April less, Shredder less, but they're unique, right? And Shredder definitely could be still good. He's just not top shelf good. And all the turtles are great together, and individually they're still very good as well. And then of course you have the standout Leonardo, who's basically a faction unity champion with the turtles, him being the best. And for Plarium to offer him up as a guarantee, really was a bit surprising to me, but I think that was a huge positive. Regardless if he was super expensive, there was at least the option to get him. And I think since we had, basically the leaked documents come out at the start, it prepared a lot of people to get Leonardo from the beginning, and that gave everybody a 2 or 3 month buffer to kind of save up. And another positive is that Plarium actually ended up fulfilling their end of the bargain, which is basically giving us the events that were leaked just at different times. But I thought the collab was great. I thought it looked great. Obviously the leaks were not great, but I think overall the community did benefit from it, even though it was, obviously annoying being in the dark and all that. But I think just getting the word out did prepare more people than hurt people. So, and I think even without the news of any kind of leaked events, we can always assume that during these types of collabs, there will be some kind of guaranteed event involving probably shards, probably soul stones, probably energy. So we can always, basically stack up these resources during collabs and just expect the events to happen. I like that they brought the event dungeon back. I like that the event dungeon was less difficult than the previous one. I didn't like that the chronophage wasn't a massive set to kind of chase. The relics also are not like massive relics to chase. So there was no massive like big power spike in that regards for the event dungeon or the relics. And the turtles, they're good, but they're not like broken good. So all of this, I think, is actually a good thing. You don't want an exclusive event to have completely broken stuff, right? So I think this is actually a really good thing. I think Plarium kind of hit it just at the sweet spot in terms of overall power level, in terms of overall difficulty and everything with this collab. I think what I would have liked to see is obviously a longer game plan of events. That would have been nice, but obviously for Plarium, they're not going to just release 3 months in advance. Some of the stuff they say, it makes sense. For example, like planning purposes, they can't release things too far in advance because things can change. That makes sense. But it would be nice because it allows players to save resources and use them in better ways. But they don't want players to, generally use resources in the most efficient ways, because that's how they make money, is for players to make mistakes. And, that's the truth, right? So ultimately, it's a good collab, but Plarium being Plarium is adding their sprinkle of, their tactics and all that stuff to try to get people to spend money. And that obviously is not the best feeling, but, if you guys have been playing the game for a while, that's Plarium's standard stuff that we can expect. So moving forward, thumbs up for this collab, I think. Keep it up. We want to see more collabs like this with cool champions that are great. Don't break the game, are fun to play with, fun to look at, but just dial back the Plariumness, right? Dial back the cost, dial back the secrecy, add a little bit of transparency. I think it would go a long way for these type of events. But overall, I think they did great. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought about the entire collab experience. Did I lay out the pros and cons properly here? Let me know if you guys have a pro or con that I missed myself. Anything that stood out to you. We'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Let me know. Appreciate you guys watching until the end. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.